In this video, I'll be walking you through step by step what I would do if I had to lose 40 pounds of body fat as a busy traveling man. Over working out for close to a decade now, I've gotten to as lean as 6% body fat getting ready for a bodybuilding competition, and I've also helped countless of busy traveling men shed a ton of fat. So it's safe to say that I know a thing or two that will help you out. I'll be taking you through a simple 5-step process you can follow and immediately apply into your own life so you can see results as soon as possible. Let's get into it. First off, why 40 pounds? The reason I went with 40 pounds is because for most people, that's all it would take to get to their goal physique of around 15% body fat. 15% body fat is a good starting goal to have since it doesn't seem too unrealistic. Additionally, it's probably the most sustainable long-term for most since you look pretty good and it doesn't take too much effort to maintain once you've built the right habits. And if you're lucky and have well-developed abs, you might even have a six-pack. For example, this is me at around 15% body fat. When can you expect to get there? Let's take the example of being at 220 pounds. To get down to the 180 really depends on a lot of different factors, but given you're losing about 1 to 2 pounds a week, which I would recommend without being too restrictive or messing with your hormones, 6 months, given you follow what I'm about to lay out to you and most things go right, is a good time frame to aim for. And if you look at the bigger picture, 6 months is really not that long. I mean, if you were at 15% body fat with a six-pack in 6 months from now, how would you feel about that? That said, let's get into the practical side of things. When approaching a weight loss journey, it's important to go into it with the right mindset, as this will play a big role in whether you can stick to it in the long run. Where most people go wrong is putting too much emphasis on daily weight fluctuations. This just leads to so much unnecessary stress. Your weight will naturally fluctuate even if you're doing everything correctly. So instead, just don't pay attention to your daily weight fluctuations. Instead, consider weekly averages. I personally weigh myself daily, but that's not necessary at all. Weighing yourself once a week is more than enough to gauge whether you're on the right path or not. I would also suggest taking waist measurements and progress pics every other week or so. This is especially important if you're doing additional weight training, which I will get into step 3. As with putting on lean muscle, the scale weight might not drop as quickly, but you'll see visible changes as well as your waist size dropping. When it comes to the nutrition side of things, where most people go wrong is just taking it too slow from the start. They only make small changes here and there, which leads to average results at best, and because they're not seeing any meaningful change, they get frustrated and then give up. Instead, unlike what a lot of people will tell you, you actually want to throw yourself into the deep end. So what I mean by that is having a stricter approach from the start, and here's why. Once you see the scale weight dropping, your pants getting loose, people giving you compliments, motivation will kick in and it'll be so much easier to stick to from that point moving forward. You'll have given yourself the evidence that you can do it. You'll also start to feel really good about yourself. Your energy will increase and you'll have built a bunch of momentum. Along with that, because you had a higher body fat percentage, you're also not at risk of losing any muscle, given you're consuming the right amount of protein, so 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, or you can also take your height in centimeters times 0.7 to 1 gram of protein if you're on the heavier side of things, and you're regularly lifting weights. And if you're training properly, which I will get into in a second, you can actually gain muscle and lose fat. And to prove that to you, here are some of my clients who achieved just that. Reality is, the only reason you're overweight is because of your past habits. Whether you got there because of stress eating, not knowing what to eat, emotional eating, midnight snacking, whatever it was, you ate too much of the wrong things. So what we want to do instead is break those bad habits and replace them with new ones instead. And the best way to do that is to create your ideal environment. So get rid of all of the bad stuff, all of them, yes, get rid of it, and replace them with nutritious foods. Now I know what you might be thinking. Dom, that's too hard to do. Yeah, I feel you, and I used to be that. But reality is, once you replace all the bad stuff with the good stuff, the whole nutritious foods, because it's out of sight, you'll also crave it a lot less. Think of it like being on an island. If you were on an island and you were only exposed to coconuts, berries, and fish, that's all you would eat because that's all that there is. Now you want to think the same way. Create your island. And because you've gotten rid of all of the bad foods, Even if you crave them, you'll be less likely to have them because you've made it so much harder for you to access them. You're also resensitizing your taste buds and fixing your dopamine levels. I promise you, soon, healthy, nutritious meals will be all you want to eat because of how it makes you feel. And I'm not just speaking from experience. This is also backed by science. There's a chemical in your body called serotonin, known as the happy chemical. Most of your serotonin is produced inside of your gut. And the serotonin that is produced inside of your gut is produced by what? By having a healthy gut. How do you have a healthy gut? By having a healthy diet. So that means that you can literally become more happy by having a healthy diet. How cool is that? Simple healthy meals are also a lot easier to track and hit your macros with, which will automatically help increase your consistency. When it comes to how many calories you should be consuming in a fat loss phase, a good reference point is taking your body weight in pounds times 10 to 12. You can also Google TDEE calorie calculator, which will give you a more accurate estimate. That said, very important, we are all different. So if you're not losing weight, of course, make the necessary adjustments. There's literally so much still to unpack. Like, how do you go about your nutrition when traveling? How do you eat out the right way? How can you effectively cook in the kitchen without wasting too much time? But what if you're just not the type of person to track? How can you still see results without tracking? Well, that and so much more. I have this free document literally giving you the entire nutrition strategy on how to go about your nutrition as a busy traveling man. So if you want it, just DM me the word food on Instagram and it's yours. I'll send it right over to you. Once you've done the strict approach for about 4 to 8 weeks, something starts to happen for most people, and that is diet fatigue. When this happens, your body is signaling to you that this is not a good idea and you should stop. And there are 3 main symptoms. Firstly, you're hungrier than usual. The meals that used to fill you up no longer do. And also TV commercials, yeah, they really start to hit now. You watch that McDonald's commercial and you're like, man, I could have a Big Mac. And also in general, just thinking about food a lot. The second symptom is your energy levels. You're both slower mentally and physically. You're often brain dead and you struggle to think straight. Also, when you're standing, you want to sit, and when you're sitting, you want to lie down. You're just constantly tired. And even doing simple tasks seems tough. And finally, your sleep is all over the place. You struggle to fall asleep because you're really hungry. You're lying in bed, you're trying to count sheep, but then there's burgers and it's a mess and you struggle to fall asleep. You wake up at night or early in the morning and can't fall back to sleep. And finally, you toss and turn a lot more in your sleep. And this is because when you're on a strict diet, your fight or flight hormones like cortisol are elevated. And when that is the case and you have a lot more cortisol or fight or flight hormones in your bloodstream, you tend to move a lot. Now, if any of these symptoms are starting to get really obvious and it's getting really difficult for you, it's time to make a change. So what I would suggest is go on a diet break for 1 to 2 weeks. This will help you recover both mentally and physically, as well as reset your metabolism as it adjusts to the lower calorie intake. This is really important. Dieting can be hard and your body needs a break. Then, once you feel refreshed, no sooner, this is important. Once you feel refreshed, then just go back to the normal stricter approach for another cycle of 4 to 8 weeks. This is not only the best long-term weight loss strategy, but it will also make the stricter phases easier because you know you always have that break to look forward to. If you repeat the cycle a few times, before you know it, your abs are popping, I'm telling you. Now, if you just want to lose weight, nutrition is all you need. But if you also want to add lean muscle and look and feel even better, resistance training is going to be key. Don't make the mistake most people make. I see so many people do extra 2 hours of cardio a day, resistance training 6 days a week, on top of being on such low calories. This inevitably leads to frustration, burnout, because it's just too much. And more often than not, this leads to them gaining all the weight back they've worked so hard to lose. To avoid that, unlike with your nutrition, with your training, you actually want to take a slower approach. The main focus here will be to build the right habits. You want to establish a new identity for yourself by consistently showing up. 3 days a week for 45-minute sessions is more than enough to stimulate muscle growth as well as make it sustainable for the beginner stage, but even for the intermediate stage of 2 to 3 years of lifting. In fact, this 2017 study shows doing 5 to 9 sets per muscle per week can get you on average about 80% of the gains and less than 5 sets more than 60%. If you currently don't have a routine that's working for you or your lifestyle and you want to spend way less time in the gym while still maximizing results, make sure to check out my YouTube video called The Minimalist Workout Routine. I'll put the link into the description and you can check it out right now, feel free to. But personally, I would wait until the end of the video since I'll still be dropping some nuggets in this video. Along with that, it's super important that you're following a structured plan, which you'll find in the video, executing the exercises with correct form and intensity, and making sure that you're properly progressively overloading. All progressive overload is continuously adding tension to your muscles over time, to continuously challenging them so that they can grow, adapt, and get bigger. And you do this by either increasing the weight or the reps over time. The right nutrition and consistent weight training will be more than enough to get to your goal weight while building muscle. That said, what I would recommend additionally is getting your steps in. This is a great way to increase your activity level and burn some extra calories, and unlike vigorous cardio, you just don't feel as tired or hungry afterwards, which helps stick to your calorie goal in the long run. A good goal to aim for is 8,000 to 12,000 steps daily, and this is very possible if you plan it into your day, for example between meetings, or you could even do it after having a meal, which actually also helps with digestion. It's also a great way to just get out, fresh air, get some vitamin D. And if you're privileged enough, you can also get one of those standing desks, and then you get some of those small treadmills below, and that is a great way to work and get your steps in at the same time. Now that you have the plan, it's just about sticking to it and you will get to your goal. But let's be real, that's easier said than done. I mean, inevitably, there'll be times where you won't feel like showing up or sticking to the diet. As humans, we are awful, horrible, terrible at keeping promises we make to ourselves, but most of the time, we can keep promises we make to other people. Now, we want to use that to our advantage, and there's 3 ways to do that. Firstly, you can get an accountability partner. This works really well because it's no longer just about you. As humans, we don't want to be seen as someone that's inconsistent or can't stick to the plan or is not hardworking. And if you have that partner, you don't want to be seen that way, and so you are more likely to show up. Then you could join a community of like-minded individuals. For example, when I started my entrepreneurial journey, I went through some very dark and lonely times. And what I did was I joined communities, online communities, paid and free, to get around people who were like-minded and on the same path as me, as well as ahead of me, so I can learn from them and be motivated. This just makes it so much easier to stick to because you're around people who are in the same boat, who can relate and have similar goals to you. And finally, you could hire a coach. For my bodybuilding competition, I hired not 1, but 2 coaches to help me get into peak condition. And it paid off massively because not only did they have way more experience and knowledge than I had, but also when you pay attention and you show up. And that will help reaching your goal and make success inevitable. And that is all you need to lose 40 pounds in the next 6 months. The main takeaways are: keep the long-term goal in mind without paying attention to the daily fluctuations. If you're doing the right things, you will get to your goal. With your nutrition, you want to have a stricter approach from the start, and with your training, more conservative. Adding 8 to 10,000 steps is a great way to increase your activity level and burn some extra calories. And finally, making sure you actually stick to the plan by getting the accountability you need. Now, don't forget to take action, because if you don't, you have learned nothing, and this was a waste of your time. And I don't want that for you. If you're someone who travels a lot and you don't have your dream physique yet, make sure to check out the pinned video to the top of my channel, where I literally give you the roadmap on how to get a lean and aesthetic physique, a movie star body, as a busy traveling man. Make sure to check it out. Other than that, thanks for watching. And as always, don't be a little bitch, get yours, and I'll see you in the next one.